I'd like to welcome everyone to the latest in our Red Door Poets Opening the Doors series when Katie Griffiths will talk to members of the collective BRAID. Let me first explain that this event actually took place in July 2025, but for some mysterious reason, the recording didn't work. So it's taken some time to organise a rerun, but we persisted. And as the performance last July was mesmerising, we wanted to add this to the other RDP talks on our YouTube channel. So tonight we have just two of the BRAID members interweaving their poems, Noakes and Kaycee Hill. Nevertheless, I'm confident it'll be a wonderful experience. So now I'm going to hand over to Katie to introduce them properly. So Katie Griffiths is author of My Shrink is Pregnant from Live Canon and The Attitudes from Nine Arches Press, who are also publishing her second collection, Mindset, Mind Rise, in the autumn. She's the winner of the Gregory O'Donoghue Prize in 2024 and has recently started a monthly live poetry series in Walton-on-Thames. So, Katie, over to you, and I look forward to this.
Thank you so much, Mary, but a very, very warm welcome indeed to Kate Noakes and Kaycee Hill, the two members of BRAID that we're lucky enough to be talking to this evening and who are going to give an example of their performance together. Both Kate and Kaycee are widely published poets and have a lot of performing credits to their name. Kate Noakes lives in Bristol and has a PhD in critical and creative writing from the University of Reading. She was elected to the Welsh Academy of Letters in 2011, and her website is archived by the National Library of Wales. Her new book, which is actually a ninth collection, Sublime Lungs, is published by Two Rivers Press in April. So that's very, very imminent indeed. And also Bog Queens, a pamphlet from Green Bottle Press, is going to be published in June, also this year. Kate is widely traveled and she's lived in Australia, California, South Africa, and France. Kaycee Hill is a mixed heritage poet, also based in Bristol, whose work draws on sound system culture and sonic experience inheritance, exploring how music shapes who we become. She won the inaugural James Berry Poetry Prize and the 2025 Eric Gregory Award. Her poems appear in Poetry Review, Poetry London, Magma, and Five Dials. She's co-editor at Fox and Star Books, and her debut collection, Hot Sauce, is published by Blood Axe. So, warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to begin by asking you, of course, how did BRAID as a collective get together? When did you form?
So shall I go? So Kaycee and I met each other about 2 years ago now when I moved to Bristol from London, and we met at an art opening and were introduced by Carrie Etter, and we sort of hit it off on a very troublesome journey back from Bath to Bristol, but we just didn't stop talking the whole time and had lots of plots and plans and ideas for what to do, and doing a performance group was one of them. So we found a third member, Naomi Madlock, and unfortunately Naomi couldn't be here this evening, which is a shame, but never mind, we'll do our best to weave as we go.
And is that how the name came about? Because there are originally 3 founding members. Would that be the obvious thing to say?
Yeah, and then it's kind of like the 3 strands, like when you're braiding. So yeah, and then that's kind of what we're doing kind of with the sets that we put together and the performances where we're kind of weaving our words and our poems together. So braid made sense and came quite naturally, I think, for what we were trying to do.
And Kaycee, Kate was describing what seemed a very intriguing journey that you were taking together when you kind of found each other poetically, could we say? Kaycee, could you say maybe what drew you to Kate's work as a poet, that was something that you wanted to explore with her together?
So I think I and kind of we as BRAID were quite lucky in that me and Kate were in very kind of similar situations. Kate had recently moved back to Bristol, I had moved to Bristol, and I was kind of looking to meet sort of poets in the city. So it initially started our kind of, working relationship, our creative relationship. Kate leads a writing workshop in Bristol, and so I became very familiar with Kate's work kind of right from the get-go, and I'm just really impressed by her economy of language and total control of craft, and just, yeah, love her work. So and what was really interesting actually was how thematically there's lots of overlap between what we write. So even though we're very kind of, we're different people, we're different poets, but there is kind of this harmony that comes when we get together, like, creatively. So yeah.
So thematically, what would you what would you say that was, Kaycee?
I would say definitely kind of womanhood, the body, and also nature, and kind of not just looking kind of at, I guess, like the pastoral, but kind of more urban themes as well. And yeah, when it kind of came to putting the sets together and thinking about, okay, which poems are talking to one another, there was just so many similarities between what we were writing at any given time. So yeah.
Wonderful. And Kate, if I could ask you the same thing. So on that amazing journey, what made you realize that you were drawn to Kaycee's work in particular?
Oh, I'd read Casey's great book, Hot Sauce, which is fantastic. And I just thought she had a very precise use of language, but also a wonderful rhythm. She's great. There's a great music in her work. Not, I mean, literally music, as well as actually her words are very musical. So that's it. And there's a lot of touch points, as she just said, in the women things, body things, knots of nature, which, as you say, in an urban context, is what we're always looking for, what keeps us sane.
Yeah.
The green in the city.
And thank you for that. And although Naomi's not here, she's obviously a very important part of BRAID. So could you maybe characterize how her work then fits into your group, your performance?
I think
Sorry,
oh,
go on.
I was going to say, I think similarly, Naomi was writing within those themes, and Naomi is a chronically ill poet, so kind of writes about the body in different ways, and kind of her relationship with nature kind of as a space for, I don't know if she would like me using this word, but kind of for healing and for solace. And I think there's so many similarities there. And we were looking for a third strand. Naomi also joined our writers group, so we just, yeah, it very naturally kind of came together as just three female poets just looking to do something different in the city, and also collaborate. I think we were all kind of desperately looking to collaborate and kind of get a collective together, and it just works.
It's quite lonely being a solo poet. So
Well,
it's really, really nice to work with others and do something, that you can pull together. And we're actually very lucky at the Lyra Festival this coming up very soon in April, which is Bristol's Poetry Festival. We're leading a walk around a particular part of the city, Clifton, which happens to be where I live, to various different literary related places, but pulling together our poems, other people's poems. And so that's another BRAID project that's coming up. So yeah.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I was going to say, Kate, just there too, that the amplification of voices, and I think you put it so aptly, when you're a poet on your own, it's a lonely world, but then you can find ways in with other poets, which is a wonderful thing to do. Just before, I'm so looking forward to hearing you read and presenting your work to us. But do you find, I think that you've put together sort of, would you say, two shows, as it were, or do you, for each performance that you do you find a different way in, or is there something that you've found that you like to present in a number of different venues and places and platforms?
So we've got three now, actually. We've got the one that we're going to read for you this evening, which is about flight. And then we have one about music, not surprisingly. And then we have one that we're calling Bodies of Water. Mm-hmm. And so we have a short version of the set, each set, and then a full version. And we read the short ones if we're organising a BRAID event, which we do from time to time, not regularly, but we do get guest poets, and we'll read a small set, then we'll have some open mic, and then we'll have our guest poets and some more open mic, and it depends really how many people turn up. So we have sort of two versions, as it were, of each set. So and then we like to go and be invited to perform, and do the full thing. So
my understanding from that, for example, when you have a guest poet, they might be actually sort of become part of BRAID, as it were.
In a way, yes, because very often we tell them what we're going to read, and if they can fit into our theme, then great. If they can't, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the last event that we did, we decided to do Bodies of Water, and we had nice Bristol poets, Sophie Dumont and Lizzie Parker, both of whom, and Sophie has got a collection all about the River Avon, and particularly canoeing on the Avon. And kayaking, because that was her thing, but also all sorts of river stuff. And Lizzie writes a lot about the waterways of Bristol in her book Cormorant. So we had those two guests, and that fitted together beautifully as an evening all about thinking about water and bodies of water. So it was lovely. Yes,
and also a sense of place.
Yeah,
that you have connections to. That would be wonderful. So, well, I'm wondering if now is a good moment for you to present your poems to us, and we'll have maybe a few more questions for you afterwards, if that's all right.
Do you Absolutely.
Like to do that now? Thank you.
So this is the new nature of flight. Periac Minervois. Starlings gather on the pantiles roof to roof. Their wings flash iridescent as the sun on the water they've sought dry summer long. At dusk, they rise and twist like smoke over the harvest-done valley of glowing vines. One morning, a female mistakes an open door as invitation, ancient beams for a perch, panics and tries the windows with beak and brain. Quick bird, out. She turns and retraces her flight. Lucky. The Greeks say any blackbird is bad, deathly even. Others think only white birds prefigure that. Pagans worry she's a fae. In the Middle East, her visit is good luck. Most make it mean change is on the way. Though it was just a bird flying into the house and back to the gossiping flock, we're attentive, hoping for a ceasefire.
Urban kites. The sky sits flat like a heel-mashed bug. A red kite tosses itself into the scene, leaves with a fidgeting vole in its beak. In the kite's line of sight were nothing more than figurines, forged in plastic like Barbies, cosplaying in plasticine. For a few minutes, I watch a parade of daisies nodding along to the wind. Something pulls me to pluck out Freya's hallowed flower, to clutch its scant stem between my fingers and puncture its green matter with a broken thumbnail. The sky, dimmed and leaden, sits flat as the residue of a dream. Cold as bone, the wind seethes, far off, a child shrieks. Overhead, two kites orbit each other like satellites or lovers. The vole carcass falls, lands in my lap bleeding, eyeless.
Bird, bird. In the winter that has hardly been, except for warm torrential rain from nowhere, catkins already dust the wood with sulphur and green. I walk the muddy path with birds, a roundelay of long-tailed and great tits, and robins feast on fat needle buds of beech. Ahead, a call breaks the silence. Bird, bird. A small woman hand feeds a crow and a pair of jays. Bird, bird. She waits for me to pass and flashes me a bright blue look as the birds retreat for a moment high in a young oak. I find a more venerable tree to talk to, pressing my hand on its ridged trunk and my ear as close as it's possible to go. It tells me it's tired and stressed and needs the cold to sleep, that its sap is too keen, its gold leaves coming too soon.
At the train station, a pigeon squats like a miniature Buddha, loading a bullet into his barrel-chested body, eyes fossilized open as wheels roil and iron tracks wheeze. Morning's wax sets inside the space he meditates, turning his blue-grey feathers to iridescence, a soap bubble amongst a nesting flock. A dust aroma climbs from the train station temple, from his dwelling's antique cavity, while the sun slides down like a square of hot butter. And he begins to preach in this strange language, a hushed coo, coo, cooing as the world sleeps, mouth gaping, closing like a stargazer lily.
Some place pest. Chip catchers, fish filchers, sweet snaggers, pasty pickers, grub grabbers, sarnie snatchers, crisp clutchers, soft scoop seizers. We've returned to a town full of gulls, their noise constant, and when spring's a storm, one grief is a smash of green and grey speckle, spilling gold on garden stones. One egg, unfortunate. Two, careless. A bare spot on the roof ridge is no cliff ledge, dear gulls. Yet impossibly, you raise a chick. First flight down to the road, it wanders between cars and pecks at leaves. I can't watch, dear gulls. Did it survive the fox? Is it wheeling high above the downs with you on the hottest day of the year?
Little deaths. I organize my bag with mortician precision. The sun halves itself, a surgical incision. Slide on a layer of chapstick, pull on my mittens. Overnight, the earth has toughened and my boots beat against ground so hard bitten. I wonder if the worms are okay down there, shut up in their glass skins, suffocating. It's mad how autumn sweats past everything, deodorizing the air with spiced pumpkin, mildewed windowsill, shelled conkers, all rotting. I haven't felt this way since childhood, like a fledgling bird foraging for its first gifts among brittle leaves, beak a black asterisk. I pull out my phone, another weather alert. The sky wears her haze like a disposable mask. On a park bench, I wait for cold to descend, to pursue the shape of my cheeks, fracking each with red pink like a newfound lover's motif. A dozen berries collapse against the concrete, explode into these miniature crime scenes. 7 crows blemish the last dregs of light, and the wind spits some syllables. Oh mother, I'm sick with these violences.
Self-portrait on May Day. You listen to birds as light creeps through the gap in badly drawn curtains. You're ready for summer, but winter hasn't heard the change bell. Its wet grips the greenwood still. Oak, barely in leaf. There's only a little willow for your hat. You've missed the choir on Magdalen Tower again. A black country blackbird above the drumbeat of pigeons will serve as you wait for your grandson in a broken world.
The collector. She comes to me every night at the stroke of 3, well fitted in her black and her white to greet me. She taps twice, 2 for joy, with her pointed matte black beak, and drops from her tongue treasure onto my windowsill. She brings flecks of silver foil, beads from necklaces past, beer-coloured glass, and sometimes, when she is feeling generous, gold. She is a strange creature, beautiful in her plumage, her ink blue tail stripe winking as she turns to feed. I am certain she likes me watching her. She eats her fill, and when she is done, shoots her beady, liquid topaz eye into mine and flies into the shrieking wind.
Ravenscourt Park. Black eye, Cabochon agate, jewel of the morning. Low iron fence, crow settles aloof from the dog, unafraid. Glassy reflection of me, brings news of, brings warning. Watch today's happenings. Is that all you have to say? No luck, no joy. She craws and takes off. Sudden, I understand. I miss this ritual. Here, jackdaws gossip and don't concentrate.
Kingfisher. First, that impossible blue, a wound in winter's grey flesh. The kingfisher drops like a stone, making lightning from river water. When I was 11, my great nanny cupped silver in her lined palms, a kingfisher caught in flight, its pearlescent eye bright as morning. For luck, she said, closing my fingers around it. The necklace lived in my jewelry box until it didn't. It's strange how loss operates. One day something just stops being where you left it. Like the years between then and now, like the way her voice has become distant birdsong. But still they come, these flash-quick moments of blue against branch, each citing a kind of inheritance. Watch now as she makes her dive, how she breaks the river's skin, emerging victorious, so glorious in her plumage, a wriggling minnow clasped between her beak.
Greater Fen. Green poles measured ground level in 1850. Now they stand at 15 feet. But here, if we dare, is a small-scale miracle. The let go of water, unpumping, undiking, allowing it to flow where it will, find its way, flood the wheat fields, dissolving nitrate soil, remaking the peatlands. If we come in 5 or 10 years, there'll be birds, reed buntings and goldfinches balanced on seed heads, marsh harriers gliding through the mist, and listen, the boom of bitterns. Quietly, without notice, all those leaves, grasses and moss will sink, and their carbon with them.
Avebury to Artist's Way. The most famous of all Britain's stone circles is, of course, Stonehenge. Yet there is a much older structure, not far from the Neolithic monument, that was built almost 1,000 years before, Avebury Henge. Stone circles slowly revolve behind my eyelids, their shadows marking hours. First notes of sparrow song pierce the blue. Morning pulls its pale rope over my tunic, light striking the fob's watch face, trapping the sun in brass. In 2 hours, I'll knock on Janet's door. tend to morning's meditation, warm cloth, careful hands, measured medicine. For a while, we'll listen to the robin playing out her hymns, the steam of sweet tea rising like incense, like offering.
Morning at Carterton. Oh, there's that bird again, the one we can never see. It's a regular, sparse call, a liquid bubbling, but at intervals, too long for recording. The app disclaims its ability to recognize every bird song. It's driving me a little crazy, the not knowing. To the nature reserve, then, which here means just birds, where the docent says the sleek black and green one, iridescent, with a thin curved bill and ruffed at the neck with a collar of lace, is a tui. And yes, they're all over the islands.
Sparrow. I watch you, small brown thing, defiant in your poverty, your wildness, pecking between marble fountains and carefully pruned rose bushes, as if you know something about belonging and not belonging. Your quick eye catches the glint of silver, the dropped crumb of something meant for other mouths. You are not asking permission. You are not grateful. You are eating.
Southerly jet stream and swallows. Now that you come to mention them, I pull my head from a packing box and realise, yes, they're absent again this year. Granted, there were dozens high-flying above Nice when we sipped a May Day apéro, but home here, not a one, for the second summer in a row, not even in bird paradise, the deserted zoo gardens. If I believed in signs portending, this might mean something eclipsing disaster. As it is, the cold of another rainy June explains, but does not cheer, our midsummer wedding time.
Naturalist. I check if my head is still attached to my neck, if my heart still beats, if any teeth have let go. Unfastened from sockets, ground to powder, fusion of rapture and ache in equal measure. First comes sting, bliss, soon after, eyes roaming the cryptic dark of a just surfaced fantasy. Below, Genuine's pony mounts the subwoofer. Chip shop vinegar cartwheels up the stairs. I feel like I've been initiated into new territories. Like I could dip my fingers in the odd blotch staining the mattress and paint myself with it, bound through the village, a howling thing. A robin chimes outside. I see her bright red breast, the thumping heart of a young, naked ash tree.
June camping trip. By now, the hayfields should be aswoop with swifts and swallows, and the wind rushing the barley fields should make a sea for their aerial harvest. But in a cold spring with late frosts, few birds brave it this far north, to be counted as a rounded dozen on the wires in the lane. And with summer arrived overnight, mud has dried, preventing nests. There's not one in the barn, and last year they cupped just one brood. Disappeared insects in the growing Sahara are other reasons for absence. We might plant for gnats, filled ponds, put up boxes and take hope from hawthorn and beech hedges, quivering with sparrows.
And this is the last one from BRAID. Thank you for listening. Fresh set. Inside my local nail salon, a red bulb hangs like a hunter's moon in the periphery. Copper swims over each coffin-filed acrylic, naked from color except the light. I think I'll go for, was it all just a dream? What a strange autumn this has been, perpetual unease shellacked over everything,
over the ground and trees, the berries rupturing inside mouths of honey buzzards, over the table my elbows lean upon, now marked with snarled gobs of hot plastic and silver glitter trapped in the fissures. Time tries to cease, nails dry in a river of UV. She removes my hands quick, holds them as if she's unearthed dead relics, pushes in oils darker than tree resin, and nods towards her mastery. The cash machine opens up, claps shut like a sarcophagus. Outside the nail salon, the sky feigns its reds. The sun subsides like a dying cigarette. I look down, watch 3 seagulls pick apart a screaming rat until nothing's left.
Mhm. Oh, thank you. Gosh, I just want to sit for a minute and just take that all in. That was truly amazing. What so drew me in was just the increasing power of these poems, one after the other, this tumbling succession of I think, Kaycee, you put it in one of your poems, that it's strange how loss operates, and almost sort of taking this augury of birds and flight, and between the two of you in this performance, the catalogue of loss, really. But also what I find so inspirational in what you read is your observation, very, very acute observation in these different contexts. So I'd love to ask you, I think these were poems you had, but did you then write a few more specifically for this, just to really fine tune it?
Yeah, so we have so we've kind of got 2 performance kind of run time. So we've got our bigger set, and then we've got our smaller set. So for the bigger set, yeah, we absolutely had to kind of write additional poems, but we had so many bird poems, and I think this was why kind of the new nature of flight was, we were drawn to that because it was something we could kind of get off the ground quickly, but there was definitely new poems that were, you know, written for this, and then even that of itself is kind of, you know, it's like a prompt. You're creating your own prompts from your own work that you're putting out. So yeah, and then kind of interesting to see the poems kind of written in the past. Like some of my poems, you know, are very old, like kind of, you know, a few years old, to their new work, and kind of seeing how they talk to one another as well. So yeah.
And absolutely relate to one another. And Kate, this tremendous precision of identifying, you know, the unfolding eco disaster, maybe we could call it, but
Yeah.
these poems, both of you have poems in which there is such exquisite beauty, and I suppose that's part of the way of making us really react. I love the way you take different camera angles on all these, and mentioning different birds and they're not, you know, their lack of return and so on. And we heard about robins, seagulls, swallows, all sorts.
Yeah, I think we sorry, Kate. Sorry, go.
I was just going to say, yeah, that was it. I mean, there was a lot. There's a lot of material that we all had. Naomi as well. She's got a lot of bird poems. She's a lot of bird imagery in a poem that may be about something quite else, but often using birds in that way. I think also what we hope we've done is start at a different time of the year and work through the year. We sort of start in the autumn and then work through the year, through winter and spring and summer, and then back to autumn. So that's quite interesting. I don't know if you sort of got that, but that was what we were trying to do there. So yes, and you know, there's just worrying away at birds, really.
I picked up the change of seasons, or indeed the weirding of the seasons. So that definitely comes across. Kaycee, sorry, you were going to say something there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like kind of when it came to the curation process, I suppose, of kind of putting the performance together, there is that kind of, we did definitely take a kind of a director's eye to it, which I think feeds into what, you know, that kind of cyclical element. And it's, yeah, it's different. It's a different process when it comes to putting it together and working and collaborating with other poets, but kind of us all having a singular vision for what we wanted this to be, but then everybody being so different and their work being different, but just complementing one another. I'm still struck kind of when we perform it, and I think of, you know, new things that I'm even picking up on kind of as we're doing it. So
Yeah, I was
it's
wondering
fun.
if you yourselves do feel that power as the performance builds.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
And I think it's with the I mean, I don't think we would have that necessarily with other people. I think there's something about us three and our work and how we work together. This power kind of accumulates in quite a, almost can feel coven-like at times. I'm like, are we channeling spells? Like, are we, yeah, like what's happening here? But yeah, I definitely feel that. I feel the power. And I feel very empowered when we're performing these works.
Yes. And I think audience feedback too. Most people are just back in, I mean, they're really on the edge of their seats, you know. And we did a performance actually of a different set, but the same thing applies. And it was in a community pub outside of Bristol in the Chew Valley, and there was 80 people in the audience, and they were absolutely on the edge of their seats. It was great. I mean, as a performer, wow, that's fantastic to have that exquisite attention, and they were just bowled over. So yeah, it's really good.
I can understand that. Just I was riveted and sitting on the corner of my seat listening to you, and I hope anybody watching this feels the same way. I wanted to ask you just for a minute about each of you as poets, and obviously we've heard a section of your work, a section of your work together, and obviously you're separate poets in your own right. But perhaps, Kaycee, I could ask you, what poets would you say are particularly working with you in sort of a, you know, that maybe I was going to say spiritual sense. I don't mean a spiritual sense. I mean in an inspirational sense. Or what poets do you feel really lock into what you're trying to do, or a poet that you lock into because you'd love to maybe take on some of that quality in what you're writing?
I think I'm definitely interested in poets that kind of write from kind of like a Black British perspective, or a kind of a Caribbean heritage perspective. So for me, kind of right off the top of the bat is people like Caleb Femi, Sophia Sinclair, Roger Robinson, but then, you know, Louise Glick, James Wright, kind of, and then many nature poets as well. I take inspiration from lots of different places, and sometimes that is poetry, but also kind of film, music, and so like you know, I like to say one of my kind of all-time favorite poets is Mike Skinner. From the streets, I don't know if he would consider himself a poet, but yeah, those people definitely come to mind, and just what they're doing, and kind of the luminous use of language and what they're embodying, and kind of the narrative as well, kind of the stories that they're telling in their books, and the journey that they're going on. So I'm definitely inspired by poets that kind of take you on a journey, and that's what I'm trying to do with this kind of new project that I'm working on as well. So yeah.
Can you tell us what your brand new project is?
Yeah, so it kind of is off the back of my Gregory win, and we also have BRAID. We also have a Sonic Inheritance BRAID set. But essentially it's a body of work that I've been working on, which is essentially kind of what gets passed down through music. So not just songs, but body, history, resistance, love, and kind of what it means to receive that inheritance and to decide what to do with it. So it's about kind of specifically about sound system culture in the UK, jungle kind of dub culture, but it's also a coming of age as well. So yeah, that's very exciting. And yeah, that's
that does sound exciting. I love when you said you're talking about inheritance and these things, everything that's passed down, cultural inheritance, music, and so on and so forth. But I love when you said, and what to do with it, because that's the open question, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Kate, similarly for you, what you're obviously you've got these 2 new books coming up this year. You're part of BRAID, being widely published. What poets would you say might be particularly speaking to you at the moment in the themes or the areas that are drawing you?
So in the past, I've had the great honour to be actually mentored and coached by Gillian Clarke, and so she's been a real good teacher. So that's kind of the past, I guess. The current books, just to talk about those, Sublime Lungs, which is really all about breathing, which is of course terribly important for poetry. And so there are poets that I looked at during writing that book, sort of asthmatic poets, so like myself. So Elizabeth Bishop.
I wasn't aware until to give it a research about yourself that Elizabeth Bishop did have that.
She was very, very badly asthmatic. If you read her letters, particularly her letters to her doctor, she was suffering at the time before there were inhalers that we, regularly use. So this is before that particular medicine was available. So awful, actually, the way she suffered. So that's interesting. So my inquiry was really to look at how, if at all, does that reflect itself in her work. That's interesting. It was part of what I wrote for my PhD. So Elizabeth Bishop, and then I looked at Elaine Feinstein, also fellow asthmatic. And did she write about it in her poetry? She certainly wrote a television play called, I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think it was just called The Breath or something, or Breath. Yeah, anyway, but it was aired in the 70s. So that was interesting. So she did directly write about breathing. So yeah, those 2 poets in terms of that, particularly feeding into that book, I think. And on the Bog Queen stuff, well, I kind of lifted off from Seamus Heaney. He wrote very beautiful poems about bog bodies, as we know, and often for political purposes. But I'd been on holiday to Denmark when it was pouring with rain summer, and seen all the bog bodies, and I was very excited to actually see the Tolland Man, which of course famous Heaney poem, and he eventually visited as the Tolland Man and wrote in the guest book, and they very proudly display a little verse from the poem and his signature. So that was rather lovely. So I picked up from where Heaney left off, which was really to think more about the women and find their stories and tell their stories of often violence, but some joyful stories in that pamphlet as well. So Heaney was, very much his presence in there, in that, he alighted on the topic for poetry. But I've hopefully taken it on, moved it on a bit, and that was what I was about with that project anyway.
I think that's truly fascinating, and I love, you've got Kaycee was talking about inheritance, vast types of inheritance, and then you're talking about breath and breathing, and it's almost like it's survival. And then the bog bodies, I just feel that there's such rich material that you're exploring on your own, but hopefully at some point in the future too, you'll be bringing those aspects too into future BRAID performances, those themes that you're so drawn to at the moment.
Maybe we'd have murdered women or something who rise up and tell us their stories. Yeah. Being a little facetious, but actually it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that would be really, really fascinating. And okay, I've just got a couple more questions, and then I'm going to pass over to Mary to see if she's got a couple. But I did also want to ask you, because Kate, I know you've published loads and you've got 2 things coming out and done a PhD and dissertations and all sorts of things. And I want to ask Kaycee as well, but we'll start again with you, Kate. Can you just tell us a little bit about your writing practice? Are you getting up at 5 in the morning to get a jump on the world to get all this work done?
Well, I have the privilege of not having to work for money anymore. So, I am retired, so from paid work. So I have time. So do I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Absolutely not. I try to do something every day. It may or may not be writing a poem, but I try and do something every day. Yeah, I guess I have the time now, finally, after a long career, to write all the things I want to write. And there seems to be an acceleration because there's a lot to write, and who knows how long one will live.
Well, but that's amazing, and I love to hear about the fact that so much is pouring out of you. That's tremendous, tremendously inspiring for the rest of us. And Kaycee, what about yourself? Are you what's your writing practice like? So Kate's not getting up at 5 in the morning. Are you getting up at 5 in the morning too?
I am not getting up at 5 in the morning. So I mean, I wish I was getting up at 5 in the morning. But I'm an editor, so at Tom's Guide. So essentially my day is just writing, typing on a laptop all day. So I actually lately I've been finding it quite difficult to kind of get writing done once I finished work, because the last thing I want to do is kind of but very, very recently, me and Kate did go to a writer's retreat in the Lake District, and that was absolutely amazing. That gave me so much kind of stimulation, and I sort of came to the realization, if I was to analyze myself and my practice, I need to be stimulated emotionally, spiritually, in order for me to write. Kind of, I call it blowing off steam. I feel like if I haven't kind of gone out and experienced things, I kind of get in a bit of a lull. So yeah, luckily I was in that funk. We went to the Lake District, and then it was just nonstop writing. So yeah, I need to figure out a way to kind of have my practice not just come in these kind of bursts of, I'm really inspired, let me sit down and write, and kind of train it like the muscle that it is. But I am hoping that once I move house and I've got a kind of a dedicated space, that I can actually, that I'll be able to do it. But I'm writing as much as I can. But I wish I was the waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning person to do it. Maybe I'll challenge myself to do it. But yeah, I need to be.
I was asking you that because it's a source of endless fascination to me at how and where and writers, poets, how they fit in the time actually to honor their art. I love the idea, and I did see about that on Facebook actually, that you two had gone off to
Yeah.
on a writing retreat. I thought that's absolutely amazing, because of course many people will go off on their own, or they'll go to a specific retreat that's been set up by somebody in particular, a named poet or whatever. But this is a sort of a self-created retreat, wasn't it? And it's marvelous.
And we were writing every day, and luckily we had the car, so we could go out and kind of, it was great, and just so much material came from that one trip. So I think that's actually something I'm going to incorporate into my practice, my yearly practice of giving myself the permission to write, by doing a little solo writers retreat, or roping in a friend to come along.
And you might at the end of this, you might have lots of people volunteering to be a friend of either you or Kate on writing retreats. Your next,
I mean, that's great. Say hi.
Yeah.
No, it was really good fun. We just didn't have anything else to do except write and cook a meal, and that was it. And there was there was no work. Kaycee switched off work.
Brilliant to hear the decks like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Could I intervene at this point and ask a very short question, which is, with your writing retreat, were you actually working together with this, so that I'm just interested in the process of how the collaborations come about. If you present a poem, Kate, to Kaycee, and you then present one to Naomi, or if it just is you've got one and then you see one of Kate's and they seem to work together.
It's more.
In other words,
yeah, it's more the latter, Mary, to be honest. It is that we've got our own sort of work, and then we kind of metaphorically spread it all out and try and slot it together in a what chimes off what. On our writing retreat, we did share work with each other. I mean, we just basically ignored each other all morning.
Yeah.
and wrote and, you know, just did our own thing completely. And for me, that was mainly lying in bed writing or whatever. Yeah. We just ignored each other for the morning. And then we went out for a, you know, something to do in the afternoon. We did something, whether it was a walk or a visit to Wordsworth or, you know, whatever we did. And then in the evening, we come back and do a bit of editing or whatever. And then we'd share. Yeah. But not necessarily. But we did share with each other and give each other some feedback. So that's how that kind of worked, which was good.
And the other question, which is a very short one, hopefully, which is that I think collaborations are becoming more and more popular. Certainly, I'm seeing a lot of pamphlets about collaborations, and you see it also at festivals where you've got a couple of poets like yourselves doing this sort of thing. What advice would you give to people who might want to start up their own collaboration or collective?
Kaycee.
Honestly, I think just do it. Like, is that advice? Like, just do it. Like, if you're thinking about doing it and it's with people whose work you admire, there is some element of, you know, trust there. I think there has to be, if you're kind of, you know, opening yourself up in such an intimate way, and that you know, you genuinely get on and respect each other as writers, as people, it will work. But I think, yeah, kind of going back to what Kate said earlier on, but, you know, there are lots of kind of lonely, like, it can be a very lonely thing, kind of just, you know, being a solo poet, or even, and you don't think, okay, well, is this something I can actually do? Like, you know, you might think, oh, I'm a page poet, I'm not a performance poet. And it's like, well, if you read your poems out loud, like, why not perform them with other people and just get a community going? And doesn't matter where you live in the country, in the world, there's going to be other poets that want to do this. So I think most people are just up for doing creative things. So yeah, and want to do them. So I think if you're having a conversation with someone and you're like, oh, should we set this up? Like, should we do this thing? Just give it a go. See what happens. That would be my advice. Just do it.
Yeah.
Good advice. Do you have anything else you want to ask, Katie?
Well, I was just going to say that was brilliant advice, for sure. Yeah. I just wanted to ask, thanks, Mary, and I was just wanting to ask Kate and Kaycee. They did mention a performance of BRAID that's upcoming. What's happening for BRAID for the rest of this year? Have you got more performances in different parts of the country?
We have the Lyra Festival, which I mentioned, and then we are doing a reading in Exeter at the Exeter Phoenix for uncut poets. And that is at the end of April. And other than that, we haven't got anything organised yet, because I've been very selfishly organising all the readings for promoting my book. And Kaycee and Naomi have been very generous and said, relax, don't worry about it. Don't worry about BRAID. Go promote your book. So that's what's happening. But yeah, we're available for, you know, weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, etc. You know.
And we're having to think about as well, we're thinking about some kind of cool venues we can do our BRAID and Friends events. So TBC, but yeah, there's things that we're cooking up, but we're just, you know, let Kate have her moment, and we're there supporting and cheering her on.
No, that's absolutely wonderful. Well, I just want to extend a huge thank you on behalf of Red Door Poets and people watching for your performance this evening, which was so powerful and moving and inspirational. So thank you, Kate Noakes and Kaycee Hill, the two members of BRAID. Thank you so much for being with us.
And thank you, Katie, for conducting the interview. It was truly inspiring, the whole event.
Well, thank you very much for having us. It's been lovely.
Thanks, guys.